But Mother Superior knew I shared her vision. And I would stop at nothing to carry it out. That is why, in her final moments, she called for me.
Wow, it took them barely 3 minutes before they started breaking lore and source material. This is going to be fun. Howdy all, I'm Adam Renaissance Nerd, and welcome to my review, the beginning of my review of Dune Prophecy, the new Dune prequel show on Max. Yes, a prequel. Listen, I'm going to be up front. Those who may be new to the channel, first finding me here, I love Dune. I saw David Lynch's movie when I was a kid, when I was old enough to be ready to read and understand the novels. I read through them eventually all the way, and of course I love it. It is a staple of my science fiction background. I am a Dune book guy, okay? Plain and simple. So now you know where I'm coming from when I talk about this stuff. I haven't read every single Dune book out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I read all 20 plus of them. I read the main series, and I've read a couple others, especially preparing to review this show. All that being said, this show doesn't need to exist, especially because they claim it's based upon this book right here, Sisterhood of Dune. They also, therefore, leave out the fact that the elements they're drawing from are not just from Sisterhood of Dune, but the entire Schools of Dune trilogy. But they tap into all of 2 seconds of it in the beginning, and then they're off on their merry way making shit up. As I said in the beginning, They didn't waste any time. They got 3 minutes in. After they gave you a nice little intro, we'll get to that when we get to the next segment, they started breaking the lore right away. You know what? They didn't need to. But we'll get into that. So here we are. All right, we are going to go through this. I'm going to break it down. After I spend a little bit of time telling you where they got it wrong, we're going to go through it. And we're going to stop periodically as usual, and I'm going to explain my points. And we get to the end, I rant and rave, and then I wave goodbye until next week. So without further ado, let's get started with Dune Prophecy Episode 1, The Lore Breaking Begins.
I honor my grandmother, but this great work of hers must be destroyed.
I beg of you, don't do this. D'Artea!
All right, let's begin, shall we? We start with this show attempting, and I say feebly attempting, to give you the real backstory, the real prequel story they should have told for Dune. And I'm going to stop right here. They begin showing the war against the machines, the Butlerian Jihad. That's the story they should have told. Now, I'm going to give them credit. I'm going to say that that's a Cymek Titan. That looks good. I approve. I'm okay with that. But this is what they should have told us. The Butlerian Jihad. Erasmus throwing Serena's baby off the balcony. Then the uprising. Fakin's butler. Rory and Atreides. Xavier Harkonnen. All that good stuff. The Battle of Corran. They could have done all that. That would have been fascinating and fun and poignant in this moment in time where there are a lot of concerns about AI because you know what? Omnius, he was an AI that took over humanity and ruled for thousands of years with the synchronized empire. They could have done that, but no. Instead, they've chosen to give us a show about whammons. And I'm not saying that with disrespect to Frank Herbert and the actual Bene Gesserit order he created. No, what they're showing us here is not the Bene Gesserit. It's retarded. But we'll get to that. There's a lot to get to. Anyway, all right, so they're going to do this. They give you the brief history of the war against the machines. They don't even say Omnius. They don't even say Erasmus. They don't say any of the popular names. They don't say Vorian Atreides. They say nothing. And it's all being said, it's all being monologued by Valia Harkonnen. Valia Harkonnen, who, again, they're drawing from the Schools trilogy. Dune, Sisterhood, Mentats of Dune, and, well, not so much Navigators of Dune, because they're not even going to touch on any of that stuff that happened in that book. But here we are. Valia Atreides, after the Battle of Corran, where her great-great-grandfather was a coward and ran, They got exiled to a big-ass cold iceberg planet where only whales with fur exist to eke out a living. And I forget the name of the planet around Lanker something or other. There's a lot of strange names to pronounce on Dune. Let's admit that right here. A lot of strange names. They don't all stick to the memory. Either way, she has a vendetta against the Atreides because, hey, guess what? It's true. Her great-grandfather was a coward, but the Harkonnens blame the Atreides for everything, especially Vorian Atreides, who's not mentioned at all. Even though he's a prominent figure, he is the Atreides. Anyway, she has to tell us that it's her destiny to reject the squalor that her family is in and find a new family with sisterhood. Now, it's funny how in this monologue they completely leave out Griffin Harkonnen and the role he played, how they were partners until he was kidnapped and murdered by let's just say spawn of Agamemnon, the Simic general, who was actually the sire of Vorian Atreides. But that's a whole nother thing for a whole nother time. For some real Dune discussion. That's some real Dune discussion later on. Anyway, so they leave all that part out, making it so that it seems as only Valya had the drive and ambition to pull the Harkonnens out of their fates, their cast aside status, where they're not even a member of the Landsraad. Anyway, then we got to jump forward, and they start regaling us with the escapades of Raquella, the first Reverend Mother, also Mother Superior of the Sisterhood. Problem is, they race swap her to be a black lady, when in fact, she's the granddaughter of Vorian Atreides, who's a white guy, and he didn't, let's just say there was no mixing and matching in the Atreides bloodline that early. Later on, yeah, Vorian goes around and F's all over the place. Yeah, that's different. But at that point, it's a straight line. There's no mixing, matching. She's not a black lady. Her description is clear in the books. She's not black. So they race swapped. You know exactly what we're getting into now. Anyway, so there's Raquella, the first Reverend Mother, who was key to the efforts of fighting the war, the machines, the thinking machines. And also, she was the first Reverend Mother because she underwent a failed poisoning that transformed her at a cellular level. She was the first Bene Gesserit because she unlocked her genetic memory, her matriarchal memories, which is what makes a Reverend Mother, because you draw on the past experiences of who and what you were. I'm telling you extra stuff here that they're not even telling you in the show, so you understand how big a failure this is. They leave out all the stuff about her search for a drug to replicate the process of transforming from a regular human into a Reverend Mother, while bringing in the powers of the sorceresses of Rosek. Leave all that shit out. They leave it all out. They don't mention sorceresses. They don't mention Rosek. They mention nothing. All they say is, oh, here, look, she had a DNA plan by elevating humans. That's all they say. They don't talk about the archives. They don't talk about the fact that the archives are computers. They don't mention any of that. They just go right in. Valya was the only one that understood her dream. So that when we get to Raquella's deathbed, which doesn't even happen in this book, it happens in Mentats of Dune. When we get to her deathbed, according to this version, I'm going to come back and correct it in a moment once I'm done regaling you with its glorious crap. Valya was summoned to her deathbed along with Dorothea, the granddaughter of Raquella, who is part of the Orthodox movement at this point, not the, I guess, new idea, free-willing, progressive movement of the Bene Gesserit, led by Valya and somewhat by Raquella. But according to this show, Valya summoned to Raquella's deathbed because only Valya can carry on her mission, not her rigid Orthodox granddaughter. So she dies, and as Raquella's dying and grasping Valya's hand, she starts mumbling about a prophecy where we're going to see visions of the coming collapse of the Carino Empire, the fall of the Arrakis, the rise of Paul Atreides and his Fremen, and eventually, and here's where you know somebody cheated, looked far ahead and decided to change things. We'll get back to that in a second, though, because we're going to see those little blue dots right there? That's the foreshadowing, and I apologize for spoilers, but I can't get around it. You've been warned. Spoilers right here and now. Those blue dots, that's Omnius. The remnants of his consciousness survived the Battle of Corin, and helped by Erasmus, who also survived the Battle of Corin, which is detailed in these books. The synchronized empire exists, and continues to rebuild itself on the far reaches of the galaxies, the universe, and all that kind of stuff. She has a vision of it, although she's not clear because she's dying. She dies, and Valia thinks that she's the only one who can carry on the ideals of Raquella. And before they have the funeral, she has a little cabal meeting. She has a little cabal meeting with her diverse friends. And yes, of course, humanity is going to be diverse, because at this point, diversity doesn't matter anymore. It's just humanity. All that matters in the world of Dune at this point, in the Carino Empire, is status. That's all that matters. Status. Don't care about race, color, ethnicity, sexuality. Doesn't really matter. Oh, religion does play a role in stuff, but that's a whole nother thing to get into. They, of course, want to make things look diverse, and that's the problem here. We know what era we're in. So when I see a lot of diversity, I know it's not because they're trying to be true to the lore. They're just doing it to throw it in your face, and it already pisses me off. Anyway, so they have a little meeting here, and their plan, our plan to save everything and make sure the ideals of Raquella and the sisterhood survive, is to put an empress on the throne. Not just any empress, a sister empress on the throne. Yeah, ain't that grand? We'll come back to that in a moment. Then we get to the funeral, where Dorothea has to be portrayed as this orthodox, rigid Butlerian who hates all machines, and the mind of man is holy. That's the phrase that they like to say in the Butlerian movement. The mind of man is holy. Technology of all kinds must be destroyed. And what happens now is Valia tries to reason her, because this Valia in this one, she's just trying to do the right thing, guys. She's just trying to do the right thing and mend the sisterhood, because that's what Raquella wanted, and to save them from her vision of a dark future. Problem is, Dorothea wants to take the key to the DNA repository, the breeding records, which are on computers, and destroy it. That's what this Dorothea does. But she doesn't want to listen to what Valia has to say. She says flat out in the show here, the lines are, "My grandmother's grand dream must be stopped." Those are the words, must be stopped. It cannot come to be. And then what does Valia do? Well, you saw it in the transition clip. They do a very sloppy attempt at the voice. Stop! They try doing that. And of course, then she commands her to Minecraft herself with her knife. And then they have to proceed forward with their plans, because now instead of ruling together, only Valia will be Mother Superior. So I'm going to stop right here and say right now that everything that I just described to you from this episode didn't happen. None of it happened this way. This is all fiction, and not the fiction of Frank Herbert, Brian Herbert, and Kevin J. Anderson, but the fiction of the Whammons, literally the Whammons, because this is written, directed, and showrun by Whammons. This is what they gave you. So you want to know the truth? I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you can handle it or not. Here is what actually happened. Raquella did not have a prophecy. She didn't have a prophecy. On her deathbed, she summoned both women to her deathbed and said, "I want you to mend fences. You are going to work together, because only together will you be able to strengthen the empire and strengthen humanity." That was her dream, to also then begin the breeding program. They haven't gotten to the idea of the Kwisatz Haderach yet, because nobody has taken en masse the water of life. There's not that place they can't go, that only men go. They haven't gotten that far in the timeline yet, but the breeding program must begin to elevate humanity. That's her idea. And at the moment of her death, Dorothea's not that happy about it. But then, when she's dying, she doesn't take Valia's hand. She takes Dorothea's hand, and Dorothea has taken one of the new versions of the drug that transformed her into Reverend Mother. She has Reverend Mother abilities. She has Bene Gesserit abilities at this point. Not the voice, because Valia is the one who's created the voice. That is true. But, so, Dorothea, in the real lore, in the book, in Mentat of Dune, she is given, when when Raquel takes her hand, she touches her forehead, it says, touch foreheads with me. They touch foreheads, and she does what one Reverend Mother does to another. She transfers all the life experiences of their legacy to her. So in that moment, Dorothea understood Raquel's plan. Raquel didn't give her powers, her memories to Valia. She didn't entrust it to Valia. She entrusted it to Dorothea. And in that moment, Dorothea understood, I'm not going to destroy the breeding program. I'm not going to destroy the computers. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to work with Valia. We're going to mend the orthodox and the progressive ideas and rebuild the sisterhood to be strong, to protect humanity and protect the empire. Except Valia, in that moment, on the deathbed, they're the only ones in the room at this point. Dorothea and Valia, the only ones in the room. Nobody else is there. Valia, in her greed and desire to elevate herself to power and elevate the Harkonnens to power and get revenge on the Atreides, she murders. She cold-blooded murders. There's no altruistic thing. You have to save Raquel's dream or anything like that. She cold-blooded murders Dorothea by using the voice and telling her to gank herself. That's what really happened. And then Valia assumes complete control, becomes the next Mother Superior of the sisterhood. And then for the rest of the books goes about with her sister, who wasn't there yet. Her sister, then they go about with their vengeance against the Atreides, thinking at one point she does get her full vengeance against Vorian, but Vorian does survive. That's what really happened. That didn't happen in this show. So right away, I know it was long and lengthy, and I apologize for that, but you guys had to know, as we get into this, in the first 10 minutes of this show, they butchered the lore to suit their needs. There was no prophecy. There was no cabal to put a sister empress on the throne. And there was no thing about, now we're going to get to the next part. They keep going on in this show about truth-sayers, truth-sayers, truth-sayers. That's just one job of a Bene Gesserit sister. And it requires having become a Reverend Mother. You can't just dial this, and it requires abilities. It requires the spice to heighten your abilities, to evolve, to attain cellular control. They don't go into any of that here. They just dive right in. They don't talk about the life extension. They don't talk about the drugs to undergo the unlocking of memories, shit like that. They don't tell you any of that in this. They just skip right to, we're training girls to be truth sayers and putting them all across the empire to manipulate everything. Now, there is a scant seed of truth to that, where sisters and acolytes and Reverend Mothers are put out there to help and control and manipulate, but it's all for not putting a sister empress on the throne, but for the breeding program so they can create the perfect being, the Kwisatz Haderach. Now, that's the end of this. They go forward. They're going to jump 30 years. Okay, 30 years later, we are now outside of the Schools of Dune trilogy. We are now in fanfic land, where there is no really hard material of what happens during Valia's rule as the second Mother Superior of the Bene Gesserit. And you know what here? We're 30 years in. They're already called the Bene Gesserit at this point, but they're not calling it that. They just keep saying sisterhood. Just keep saying sisterhood. Okay, so let's get on with the show. I have now informed you of how it's based upon broken, bastardized lore. So now we're just going to analyze the rest of the show. I'm not going to complain too much about broken lore here and there, although we are going to get to a couple points, but we're now just going to focus on the show itself. I apologize once more for taking so long, but you had to be in the know. So we arrive in current day of this thing where we're hearing about there's a planned marriage between the eldest daughter of Javico Carino, the current emperor, the current Padishah emperor. They don't say Padishah, though. They don't put that in there because they're not clever like that. Anyway, so they are getting ready, and the sisterhood are going to be accepting her in because they've deemed her to be their empress. She's the one they're going to put on the throne. She's key to it all. And we're going to get a shot of all the little acolytes. Here comes her brother Constantine, coming to talk with Valia, and they're all thirsty because now, of course, we have to have wouldn't it be a modern day show if girls weren't just being thirsty for that slim hunk of man. All right, so they are thirsting over the dude as he comes in. A lot of banter between these silly little girls whose names I don't know and I don't care. Also, that we can get now to have Valia and Constantine having a little powwow about the rights of his sister when she comes in here. It's kind of meaningless conversation just to show you that the dude is kind of frivolous and Valia's all business. Eventually they come to terms. Yay, Valia's happy she gets what she wants. After they're done making their little powwow stuff, here comes Valia's sister. I forget her name. Valia's sister. It's like, I think it was with a T. I always forget her name. Tenma, Tepla, whatever. Tula, that's it, Tula. Tula comes in, and they're going to have a little chat about how, hey, guess what? We got everything we wanted. It's great. I mean, now, of course, we had Tula giving a lesson to the girls about brain and lying. It's a lot of boring bullshit. There's a lot of boring shit in this show, by the way. A lot of yammering about lies are good for you. Lies help people grow. Lies help us survive. Blah-de-blah. Anyway, they talk about how we're going to win. This is all set. Now we just have to wait till the marriage is set and done, and we're going to put our empress on the throne. But now, of course, let's jump to Seleucus Secundus and get a look at Slut Princess and her weak-ass father.
Very well, you have a deal.
Excellent. See you at the engagement ceremony.
We arrive on Seleucus Secundus' seat of power in the Carino Empire. And we are now introduced to, I guess, some more characters. We've got Nez Carino. I'm going to call her Slut Princess from now on. And we've got Kieran Atreides. I'm going to call him Fake Atreides because he doesn't appear on any Atreides family tree that I've been able to find. They're training because she needs to know the ways of the Sword Master before she goes off to being Bene Gesserit brainwashed chick. And listen, the sexual tension is palpable. Of course, they want to F. Unfortunately, while the dude is good looking enough, he has zero masculine presence whatsoever. And she, while hot, is just a slut. In comes Constantine to say, hey, guys, how you doing? I'm back. It's all set up, sis. You're going to go be a Bene Gesserit, even though they don't call them Bene Gesserits yet. And she's like, yay, let's watch me fight. Yay. I have no problem with showing a Slut Princess learning how to fight because all the women in Dune know how to fight. Hell, Valia, I'm sure we're going to get that at some point. Valia is a trained sword master. She's a sword master. We might get that later. I don't know. They might have forgotten that. I doubt they would, though, because they want her to be the biggest, bestest, baddest whammons ever. So that's just to introduce them, to show us that there's sexual tension between Fake Atreides and Slut Princess. We now go to the marriage meeting between Javico Carino and some duke of a house whose name I don't remember. Now, here's the thing. Mark Strong is awesome. He always brings it, even with the limited and barely manageable script he's been given in this. Mark Strong does a fine job in his performance in this. Problem is, Javico is a spineless twerp. He is weak constantly in this episode, while all the women around him and a couple of douchebag males are always strong. So, we're basically learning that Arrakis is in turmoil, which it will always be in turmoil, because the Fremen are busy not letting them harvest the spice, because when we're done with the events of the school's trilogy, Venport Industries has lost control. They had everything under control. The Fremen are actually working with them. They weren't pushing back against what Venport wanted to do. Problem is, at the end of the series, there was the assassination of Salvador Carino, the previous emperor. His brother Roderick is Javico's father. Salvador was murdered, and at that point, Venport lost all control of Arrakis, and the Roderick, now emperor, assumed control of Arrakis, and ever since then, it's been in turmoil. So they have problems with Arrakis, and right now, Javico's marrying off Slut Princess to the 9-year-old of Duke whoever's house, so that he can get his forces to help stabilize Arrakis. He's not happy about it. He feels like he's being screwed over. And this whole scene is done so that we can see that the two Bene Gesserit here are fully in control. They appear to be helping their masters, but in fact, they're in complete collusion because one point they're going to use the little Bene Gesserit finger language, which is real. That's real. The Bene Gesserit finger language to communicate how we need to make sure the marriage happens. We'll deal with the Duke and the Emperor later. Let's just get this going because we got to get our sister Empress on the throne. Anyway, so Javik is made to look like a fool. The other dude's clearly being manipulated and will eventually likely die. So we can see that Whammons are in control. Now, we cut back to the school where we're getting a lesson of truth-saying, truth-telling, whatever. They put too much emphasis on this shit. It's, as I said earlier, it's not the only thing Bene Gesserits do. They're there to... The primary thing is breeding. The primary thing is not truth-saying. That's not the thing. But they're training them all to like touch their fingers and dilate their eyes so they can tell the truth. And we go through this whole thing of ugly chick here and all the ugly other sisters here, or acolytes here, so that we can learn that, oh, they're learning the ways and they're better and this and that. Also that we can get to a conversation eventually between Tula and Valia about their favorites and who has potential, this and that, and I'm sure they're all going to be catty bitches because they all are catty bitches. That's the problem. These are supposed to be serious people doing serious things, and they have them being catty bitches, and they're instantly all unlikable. Nobody is likable in this show. Okay, moving on. Once we're done having the girls get their lesson in truth-saying, we go back where they're getting ready on Salus Secundus for the, I guess it's not the wedding, but it's the arrangement ceremony, the betrothal ceremony between Slut Princess. Soon she'll be Slut Sister, but Slut Princess and the 9-year-old boy. So Slut Princess and her mom are having a conversation about, oh, why don't you marry out of love? Why don't you do this, do that? I want you to do what you want to do. And she says, I am doing what I want to do because I'll be in control for the 9 years until he's of age. So I will rule. It's going to be awesome. I don't like these people at all. They're horrible characters and the writing is dumb. They're talking very 21st century. They're talking very 21st century. There's no diction aloofness that we want to feel when we're dealing with nobility. Don't behave like nobility at all. That's part of the problem I'm going to get to later. Okay, so while we're getting ready for the betrothal ceremony, somebody has arrived at Salus Secundus and requests a meeting with the Emperor. And as we see him, he's clutching a piece of cloth as he's walking in. Now, right away, I thought, that feels really weird. I feel like that's a strange callback to Manfred Tornado, who was the acolyte of Reyna Butler. When she was assassinated and he lost half his body, he retained like a piece of her fabric, her cloth, her that she was wearing that day as his totem, his emblem of his devotion to her cause. Why Travis Fimmel's character here is clutching that, I don't know, because he's not Manfred Tornado, because he's dead. Also, he was only literally half a man, and this is 30 years later. So I don't know why they're doing that. Are they trying to show, hey, look, we did read a couple pages of the book? So I don't understand that. Anyway, so Desmond Hart is Travis Fimmel's character, and Travis Fimmel does fine. He does fine. He plays Travis Fimmel like he does in every other goddamn movie or show he's in. So I like Travis Fimmel, but he doesn't have a lot of range. He does the same performance every damn time. Honestly, I'm saying, is that Ragnar? Is he doing a Ragnar here? He's doing a Ragnar here. A little bit of a Ragnar. Anyway, so he's going to get his audience with the Emperor, and he's going to reveal that he is a veteran of 12 Arrakis campaigns, and that everybody thought he was dead, but he's alive. Now, I want to point something out here. Not once since we've arrived on Salus Secundus have we seen any security. There are no guards anywhere. And when you read these books early on in the beginning of the Korean Empire, the royal family is surrounded by guards constantly. Just his uncle, Salvador, was assassinated not too long ago, only like 40 years ago. His uncle was assassinated 40, 50 years ago. So you would think they'd be constantly worried about shit, but they're not. There's like zero security for the royal family in the show, and they literally wander around the palace. The palace is empty. The palace is supposed to be filled with bureaucrats and shit like that, and there's nothing. It's empty whenever we go to, unless it's the party later on. All you have in this chamber are Javico and Asian sister, and then there's Travis Fimmel. And we get the thing that Travis Fimmel says it wasn't Fremen, it was somebody else from the Landsrad. They don't say Landsrad, but I'm saying Landsrad because I know the correct terminology. Someone else from the Landsrad plotting to overthrow you and destabilize the Empire. Now, Asian sister goes, I touched my fingers and I'm truth-saying. Now, I'm going to assume at this point, even though they don't tell us, that she's taken the drugs to allow her to evolve to an actual Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother with all the powers that are endowed when you have that. So she would be able to truth say. But the whole finger touching, it's, I don't get that. But she's going to truth say and say, yeah, he's telling the truth, or at least he thinks he is. And long story short here, because I want to get through this scene, Travis Fimmel is allowed to stay until they find him something to do, even though he says, I'd like to work here. But Javico's a wimp, so he's not going to make any decisions. We cut to that evening, and Asian sister has a prophecy nightmare about their wannabe empress sister slut princess turning on them, blaming them, and their catastrophe is going to happen. The catastrophe that Raquel saw in her prophecy going to happen because, oh, look, there's Omnis's blue eyes again. She sees it that, oh, no, we're on track to be bad, to be ruined. Now I got to go back to Wallach 9, and I got to tell him that I have a bad feeling about the wedding. She's going to go talk to Slut Princess and say, listen, I got to go, honey. You're going to be okay. I'll be back soon, and you're going to love it when you're a sister over at the school. Now, of course, Slut Sister's like, okay, as she leaves. We cut back to what I mentioned earlier where we've got Tula and Valia busily trying to figure out who's going to be a good pairing for the princess when she comes here, a good playmate, a good bunkmate, so that they can properly indoctrinate her to their goals, because Asian sister's already done a good job of setting the stage, but they need a new playmate to lock it in. And while they're doing that, there's a lot of back and forth banter that's frankly pointless and boring and means nothing in the end, because then here comes Asian sister who arrives and says, guys, we got a problem. I had a prophecy dream. We can't go through with the wedding. I don't think it's right. Now, Valia doesn't want to hear that because she's this close to putting her empress sister on the throne. We can't have that. We have to all keep going in the way I want. It's tired is what it is. Valia already, it's not the Valia from the books who was so obsessed with restoring the Harkonnen name and then seizing power of the sisterhood to do all her goals. This Valia is boring. There's no passion in there. She's devoid of everything that made her the interesting character she was in the books. Anyway, so then we got that, and now I guess it's time to move on to the betrothal ceremony and the attempts at Dune Easter egging once more. Because that's kind of what the show is. It's a lot of boring fan fiction with Easter eggs to actual lore, and then they ruin the lore.
Thank you, Nez.
Once our marriage goes through, you pull something like that again and I'll stab you myself, you little shit. Now get rid of that thing.
Okay, I'm going to break from the actual sequence of events of the episode to more accurately tell you what's going on so I don't have to jump back and forth between different scenes. Okay, so on Wallach 9, Tula and Valia are going to be talking about what to do about Asian sister's defiance towards the marriage. Tula's basically going to be lecturing Valia like, oh my God, why aren't you just being more flexible? We should listen to what Asian sister has to say because she's been the one around Slut Princess the most. Maybe she understands that the marriage isn't going to work. Why are you so obsessed? Maybe we're rushing too quickly to put Empress on the throne. And Valia's like, you shut up, but I'm hearing you. I'm still going to dismiss all of what you're saying, but I will actually then go and look at the records of the breeding program. So after basically saying, I'm not going to listen to you, she says, okay, I'll listen to you. For no real reason other than, okay. It's very poor writing. So they're going to eventually look at it, and according to Valia, The pairing of Slut Princess and the 9-year-old boy, when he's old enough, will cement the Carino line for decades to come. Once more, I will remark, they are not even touching on the true purpose of the breeding program. It's not about cementing the line. It's about evolving humanity. That's what Raquela's dream was, evolving humanity, not just cementing lines. And the real Valia knew that. We should be all about the beginning of the breeding program to make the Kwisatz Haderach, not, oh, we're just screwing girls to dudes so that we can put our empress on the throne who's a sister. That's a fake story, but they're all about that. Okay, now let's jump to the betrothal ceremony. Okay, betrothal ceremony. You've got the introduction of Duke What's-His-Name and his 9-year-old kid. They walk in. Hey, how we all doing? And here comes Slut Princess. They're going to stand together on this days where this fruit, where they open it up, and we get a shot of this fruit, which we saw in Asian Sisters' prophecy nightmare that is filled with maggots. Instead, now it's just a regular fruit. So, oh no, it's foreshadowing that the wedding's going to be bad. Anyway, now Slut Princess tries to make nice with the kid. Hey, what you doing? Now, the kid, I'm thinking, okay, this kid's a little Chad. He basically tells her, shut up. We're doing this a formality. I know you don't really give a shit. Let's just get this over with. I thought we were going to get something interesting out of this kid, but in fact, the kid is nothing but he's just a plot device for this episode. We'll get back to that. As the event of the betrothal goes on, we get a shot of one of Valia's, I guess, family members, the current Baron Harkonnen, who's busy trying to talk the Emperor's ear off about whale fur. Hey, look, call back to what they're doing on Lankerville, whatever the planet's called, where they farm whales and try to make money. Isn't that great? And of course, making the Harkonnen heir there look all skeezy and stupid. Anyway, after a bunch of back and forth and pointless conversations, we get a focus in on Slut Princess and the 9-year-old kid. He's busy playing with something in his pocket, and it seems like she's trying to be nice. It's okay. Let's do this. Let's do that. And eventually she says, listen, I'm not a truth sayer, but I know you're lying to me about hiding something in your pocket. Why don't you show it to me? We'll be friends. So kid takes it out, and suddenly you think it's a ball, but then it transforms into a lizard. That's against the rules. No sort of any thinking machine is allowed. Now, the lizard leaps out and scurries around. Everybody freaks out because you got to understand, that's the biggest taboo, thinking machines. They got that part right, especially with the remnants of the Butlerian Jihad, the movement still active. And you see that, you freak out because one little thing can turn into a giant, monstrous army in seconds. Well, not seconds, we get what I'm talking about. Everybody's freaking out. And eventually, predictably, I saw it coming. It's scurrying up the wall, and then Travis Fimmel stabs it with a dagger and stops it. Saw it coming a mile away. He returns it to the kid. Meanwhile, though, Queen Mother, Empress, whatever you want to call her, she starts freaking out. She's very obviously a Butlerian. Very obviously a Butlerian. And is screaming about, how dare you do this? This is against the law. We must pass judgment immediately on Duke What's-Your-Name, who walks out and says, hey, everybody, we're being too crazy here. It's just a toy. Are we all so afraid of a toy? And this whole scene is done to show that Mark Strong, as Javico, is a weakling. He doesn't want to rock the boat at all. He wants the troop ships from Duke What's-His-Name, and he glosses it all over because earlier in the show, him and his wife had a conversation about how she's upset that he doesn't listen to her anymore, that he lets the Bene Gesserit sisterhood tell him what to do. And it's all of it's making him look weak, and it's a shame because Mark Strong should be a strong, pun intended, character instead of this weakling Javico. Now, you saw it in the transition clip. After it's all said and done, after Mark Strong says, everybody calm down, we're going to let this slide for once, Travis Fimmel gives the lizard back to the kid, and Slut Princess is trying to leave, and the kid goes up, thank you for protecting me, because her mother tried to get at the kid, and she shielded him. Then she turns around and leans down and says, you never do that again, you little shit, and I'll be the one to stab you. Wow. First of all, horrible dialogue. That is contemporary dialogue at its finest. Nobody speaks like that in Dune. That's not how you converse in the Dune world. And also, great, we just revealed her to be another annoying whammons. And now you feel bad for the kid. You feel bad for the kid. Okay, a couple different things are going to happen here. We get a shot of the dormitory back on Wallach 9, where the bitch acolytes, the catty bitches, are unhappy that Princess is going to be coming. How dare she get to walk in here and be an acolyte where we've trained forever, blah, 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 blah. At the same time, Slut Princess and her, I guess, thirst trap brother are going out for a night out on the town, getting high on the drugs, going to go have a party. Long story short, they go to a club, he's going to go be a man whore, and she's going to slut it up with fake tradies. That's all you need to know. And during that, you see some chick with blue on blue eyes. She can't be a Fremen because no Fremen would be on Seleucus Secundus. So some other spice-related thing going on with her. Now, I called it out earlier and call it out again. There is no possible way the heir to the throne, she's the eldest daughter. She is technically the heir. And the spare, Constantine, there's no way they'd be allowed to go out on a night on the town, especially when she is literally 48 hours away from being shipped off to the school, to the Bene Gesserit school. There's like no security at all. And also at the same time, yes, even though Asian sister isn't there, there would be security to keep her from effing fake tradies. She F's fake tradies. That just spits in the eye of the entire breeding program. Because, listen, a trained Bene Gesserit sister can manipulate her cellular structure to keep herself from getting pregnant. So she can F all she wants if she's doing some spy shit, which Bene Gesserit do. But she's not trained. That womb is open for business. They should not be effing. But you have to get in your gratuitous effing in this type of show. It has no place in this at all. It's just there so they can F and have your Game of Thrones sex scene. That's all they got there. Anyway, so that happens eventually. Meanwhile, back at the palace, here comes Travis Fimmel's guy who has the run of the palace. Emperor Mark Strong is there on his patio all alone, no guards, and Travis Fimmel just walks up. There's no security here. The Emperor is undefended. This doesn't make any sense to me. So they can have a conversation about what Travis Fimmel wants to do and what he sees as his destiny. We now get the inklings that Travis Fimmel's a little crazy here. Travis Fimmel, or Desmond, we'll call him Desmond. I'll use his real name. Desmond, he's a little nuts talking about enemies within, protecting the Empire, what I'm here to do, what do you think you should do. Also, we also hear that Mark Strong, Emperor Mark Strong can go, hey, I don't like that I'm being manipulated by the sisters, by my wife. Nobody's listening to what I want. I don't want to do this marriage, but if I don't do it, I can't save Arrakis. And then and Desmond's like, oh, I can save Arrakis. If you listen to me, I have a plan. Well, we'll talk about this later. And they both leave. So now we're at the end game of this. These final moments of the episode, it's a jumping back and forth, a lot of different things. In one room, you've got Emperor Mark Strong looking at the recording of Desmond during the survival of his last tour on Arrakis, where he gets confronted by a sandworm. And mind you, the sandworms look like the sandworms from Denny Vinegar from his Dune adaptation, so they're shit. I'm sorry if you like those movies, but they're abominations and they're shit, and they broke lore all over the place, and those worm designs are crap. Anyway, so he's watching as the worm comes up and then dives into the sand right before Desmond, and so Desmond was swallowed by a worm, maybe? I don't know. Or maybe got plunged so deep into the spice, the spice, what's it called? Spice patch. The spice patch that he inhaled spice, because we come upon Desmond in the hallway with the 9-year-old kid playing with his AI lizard. And the kid's all like, I'm sad because I don't like the way I was treated. I had a nightmare. And Fimmel tries to talk to him, saying that, out of the conversation from Emperor Mark Strong, he wants to do what's right for the Empire because the Emperor is too weak to do it himself. So what he does here is, after telling the kid that, listen, I understand you have a nightmare, and I want to help you be strong, but your sacrifice is going to make the Empire stronger. Kid goes, what? And then Desmond goes like this, and the kid starts to burn. The kid starts to combust. Like, his whole body starts to suffer burn welts, and he's lit on fire and burning apart. And at the same time, back on Wallach 9, Sister Asian Girl, she starts to burn in the same way, going, ah, 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 ah. And all the sisters and Valia run out, see her almost dying and everything. Everybody's freaking out. And the kid dies. And then Fimmel walks away. And that's the end of the episode after you see Valia going, oh my God, Raquella, your prophecy is coming true. We're in trouble. Before I go to the conclusion here, I will say, whatever Desmond did is not in the rules of the Dune lore at this point. Yes, did the sorceresses of Rosic have that kind of psychic powers? Yes, but they have all died out right now, and their genetics, their genes, have diminished through the breeding program. Nobody carries over their psychic powers anymore. They could do crazy shit. They could fly. They could shoot lightning, increase heat and fire, and all that cool shit, but they're gone. There is no legitimate reason. You could be exposed to all the goddamn spice in the world. It's not going to make you go like this and cause somebody to burn. That's not how Dune powers work. Even Paul Atreides, an imperfect Kwisatz Haderach, even the ultimate Kwisatz Haderach, Duncan Idaho, doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. But this show doesn't give a shit, does it? Okay, so where are we? Episode 1 is done. What have we learned? They don't give a shit about the lore. They don't even understand the lore with the use of psychic abilities and this and that with spice being involved. They don't understand how any of this shit works. We've got good actors giving solid performances with crap scripts and crap dialogue. Now, I haven't really talked about how the show looks. It looks okay. Everybody, for the most part, I would say the costuming is not terrible. It looks good in places, looks silly in others. Dune has a history of looking silly with their costuming. And at the same time, they fail to actually properly line up the history. They don't explain anything. There are things going on, as I've explained throughout this review, that should be in play. How a Reverend Mother is born. How Bene Gesserit powers works. Using the term Bene Gesserit. We've got no references to the beginning of Chom. We've got no references to the beginning of the Bene Tilax. We have had zero reference to the Spacing Guild, which has been founded at this point. The Spacing Guild exists. And here's the other problem. The prophecy, the whole foundation of this show is bullshit because that's not how it works. Yes, spice prophecy, spice induction can let you see the future, but it's imperfect future. And at this point, they haven't started doing that yet. You know who does do it? Norma Senva. Norma Senva is the one that sees the future. She's the one that sees that Omnius and the Synchronized Empire are still out there and will come back, which is why she needs to build her Spacing Guild, create her navigators so they're ready for the final day. That's who sees it coming. No mention of this. How can you have this entire episode and no mention of the Spacing Guild? Nothing. No Venport, nothing. This show is it's a bastardization, just like everything has been lately with Dune. It's a bastardization. These are people who have grabbed the property, they don't understand it, they don't know what to do with it, and they're just throwing shit out there because they want to make another Game of Thrones-esque shit, even though Dune is the genesis of Game of Thrones. Dune and its political intrigue, it is what Game of Thrones wants to be. All right. I could keep rambling and ranting, but we'll stop here because we got 5 more weeks of this glorious show at least. Last I checked, 6 episodes. There might be more, but we got at least another 5 to 6 weeks, 5-7 weeks, maybe. I don't know. I only saw 6 episodes listed. There might be more, but we are here until it's over. I hope you appreciate the direction with which I am trying to lay this out for you. Some of you, if you like it, that's fine. Understand, you're watching fan fiction. You're watching a blatant departure from written lore so that they can play in a sandbox where they can just make shit up. That's how I see it. Either way, thank you for watching this review. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, And I'll see you guys next week with episode 2. Until then, take it easy. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Check out my gaming channel at Renaissance Nerd Arcade, and follow me on X Twitter under @TheRedNerd. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy.